Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another round of Mind Your Puckin' Business with your host, Jeffrey Krentzman.
Thank you very much, Dougie Sticks. As always, coming to you live from the beautiful studios of Undefeated Media here in a very warm, balmy Bergen County, New Jersey. This is the Mind Your Pucking Business podcast, brought to you, of course, by our good friends, the Bamboozle Project, as well as DraftKings. We encourage you to go to www.thebamboozleproject.com and check out all the MYPB gear, all the other cool stuff that is on their website. And most importantly, when you go to check out, you need to use promo code MYPB. And that will save you 20% across your entire order on their platform. This is episode 173, Ciento Setenta y Tres. So if you're joining us using any of the SAP translations features available to you today or tonight, whenever you're listening to the show, at your pleasure, we welcome you using those features available to you. You can get us at any time. You can send us your questions at mypbshow@gmail.com, or you can DM us on the Instagram platform, which is certainly the most popular way to get in touch with us. If you would like, you can get in touch with us there. And you can also listen to the show at any time on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram. And you could also stream it on any of the audio devices that you like, especially Spotify and iTunes being the most popular too. And we are on Instagram Live, I believe. Is that correct? Am I not seeing it right, Don?
It should be.
Okay.
And maybe now try again.
I will try in a minute because I know we have some. We are good there. We are now on there as well.
Boom.
So welcome. Thank you guys for joining us today. We are taping this show in case you are listening on replay on Wednesday, November 6th. So the Rangers last week, the Rangers have had a weird schedule a little bit. They had some time off last week. They played in Washington on Tuesday. Then they were off until Friday. They played Sunday, and then they're off now again until tomorrow night. So definitely kind of a break for them, if you will. And I think they probably, in hindsight, could use it. Now, well, let's go through things in chronological order here, and we'll get to our guest when she comes on in a couple minutes, and I encourage you to stay for that because it's a good one today. But the Ottawa game, they won 2-1 Friday night at home. I was in a weird spot where I almost decided last minute on Friday to go to the game. We didn't have anything with the kids, and tickets were kind of cheap, so I was thinking to myself, you know what, I'm going to actually go to the game. Whatever reason, I didn't. And this might have been the most boring Ranger game I have seen in a while.
Oh, yeah?
And one that I am glad I didn't go to because they ended up getting the win, but it just was boring. Now, you come out of a 2-1 win, and all you hear is people complaining. Like the Mika Zibanejad cries get louder. All this other stuff happens. But you win a hockey game, which is all that matters. And to me, in watching this game, and again, it was tough to watch. It just was a very boring game. It wasn't that the Rangers had a lackluster effort. I mean, you can deal with, although you don't like it when it happens, a team coming out and you're flat or whatever it may be. They weren't flat. They just couldn't get a lot going. They played well. And Ottawa got a ton of opportunities, and Igor Shesterkin had an incredible performance and probably realistically stole that game and the Rangers win. Saturday comes the day before the Islander game. And in the middle of the day, I don't remember, and I can see you guys all on the YouTube chat writing in about this, and we'll get to some of the Instagram comments as well. But they decided to shake up the lines. Now, if you were listening to us, and there is someone in particular in the chat, I don't even know if he's here today, Chris, who as always will say, look, you need to break up the second line of Panarin, Lafreniere, and Trocheck, of which I have said, and I've been in the majority here, certainly not the minority, you cannot do that. You cannot break up your top line. Well, I don't have my doctorate in hockey, which probably doesn't surprise anyone. So I was wrong, and the Rangers decided to break that line up with a bunch of other lines, and in essence, make the top line for the Islander game Panarin with Zibanejad and Lafreniere. Now, where people are wrong, and I'm going to get on some people here, because their first reaction was, when they saw that the lines were broken up, was that, well, they definitely did this because of Mika Zibanejad. They need to get Mika Zibanejad going. So Peter Laviolette and Chris Drury and the Ranger staff are going to shake the lines up to get Mika Zibanejad. That is completely untrue. Mika Zibanejad may have been one reason why you would break up the lines, but you're not going to break up your entire line completely because of one player, unless that player's name is maybe Connor McDavid or something along that lines, which, no disrespect to Mika Zibanejad, he is not.
Mhm.
So the Rangers did not break up the lines solely because of Mika Zibanejad. Like we saw on the Instagram, our Instagram page the other day, a lot of you commenting, well, they did this because Mika's got his head, he's got his head on his ass or whatever it is. That's not why they did it. That might be one reason, but that is not the main reason why they did it. Because if you look, in fairness to Mika, the last couple games, in particular that Ottawa game, which was the game that was the final straw for them to break up the lines, none of the lines were getting anything going on. You could get on Mika Zibanejad, but I could get on the other lines as well. So the Islander game happened Sunday. The Islanders are just not good. So Matt Barzal, who is, I think, far and away their best player when healthy, is now out 4 to 6 weeks with an upper body injury. Anthony Duclair, who they signed in the offseason, Ranger fans know him well because he spent some time here. He is out as well long-term. And about half of their defensive core is out as well. So they've been decimated by injuries. And even when they're healthy, the Rangers are a better team than them. So, yes, you'll want to beat an Islander team because especially when you play the Islanders, you play the Devils or anyone like that, right? You always want to win. But the Islanders are not very good. There were some things I think you like to see in the shakeups of the line. Like I did think the Rangers had a ton of scoring chances the other day. I really did. And if they could bury some of them, and Sorokin made some really good saves, that game is not even close in the end. So they did generate more offense. But at the same time, you can't let up 18 shots in the second period to the Islanders. You can't. And again, Igor Shesterkin is being counted on in a regular season game in October or November to carry you with a ton of saves, which will come back and bite you in the end if the spring comes around here, which is really the only time of year that matters. And Igor has been overworked from the previous 4 months. So, but you take the win. I mean, look, you like the win against the Islanders. I wouldn't read that much into the lines, but I will say this. I think you would have to imagine that to get a good read on what lines they feel are good fits for them, it's going to take some time. It's going to take a bunch of games. It's not the sort of thing that's going to happen overnight. Some Instagram comments will take Paul on Instagram. Breaking up the lines was a great coaching move by Laviolette. I would agree. And again, we can't decide if it ended up being good or bad yet after one game. But I think what you can agree on is when you look at their performance in the last couple games, something had to be done. And that is the first step you're always going to take, right? I mean, there's more drastic steps you could take and trade for people and all that. Nikolai has a good point as well. If we could pull up Nikolai's comment, which is that special teams has been bailing them out as well. In the broadcast the other day, that is not the right comment, sir. Two above, special teams has been bailing them out. So Nikolai brings up a very good point. The Rangers right now have the number one penalty kill in the NHL. I cannot remember, if anyone knows the answer, you can put it in the chat. I cannot remember in all my years of being a New York Ranger fan of when the New York Rangers had the top penalty kill in the league at any point in the season, maybe beyond the first game, which is a very, very good point. And again, the power play, especially when you have that top line power play on, you have a ton of talent on that line. So we'll take Michael's Kuhn's comment. Their defense is the issue, and it's defensemen. I'm going to get on someone here, and I'm going to actually couple it with a comment that just came across on Instagram from Gibby, which was the grade A defense chances that the Islanders got that bothered me. K'Andre Miller has been really, really bad defensively. There was a play in the game the other day, and I want to say it was either Bo Horvat or Anders Lee, that K'Andre Miller just made a terrible bonehead play that led to a breakaway. Now, I give K'Andre Miller credit where he skated back and kind of helped break up the breakaway opportunity, but that breakaway opportunity should have never happened in the first place. So defensively, they've got to get better. Jones, I see you guys writing on the YouTube chat. Jones has not been consistently good. I mean, if you're going to sit here and be on the Zach Jones train, you can, but I'm not sure that I would tell you that Zach Jones has been that good. And Mancini, also, if Victor Mancini, who a lot of people like coming out of training camp, and I can get behind that when they came out of training camp, but if he was that good and he deserves a consistent spot on the team, he would have had it by now, right? We're now 9-10 games into the season, and there's not 12 defensemen shuffling in for 6 spots. There's 7 fighting for 6. So if one could just get a leg up on the others, you're going to be in the lineup consistently, and they have not been. So the Rangers tomorrow night, I will actually be there tomorrow night. I'm going by myself. I thought it was the first time ever I'm going by myself. Before you came into the studio today, B-Rock and I were talking. I forgot that in 2008, I Bleav it was 2008, they played it was either 7 or 8. They played the Atlanta Thrashers in the first round. They were up 2-0. They won the two games in Atlanta to start the series. And this was like, a huge thing. Game 3 coming home 2-0. The Rangers hadn't been good in years and had a playoff game. I was at a game by myself, but I will be there by myself tomorrow night. So if anyone is there tomorrow night and want to come by and talk some hockey, you can let me know as always, and we will arrange to meet up. But so they will be home tomorrow night versus Buffalo. They will be in Detroit again on Saturday. The scheduling of the NHL is weird. The Rangers will play Detroit 3 times in the season. They will play them Saturday, which is November 9th. That is the 3rd time. They are already done with Detroit on their schedule. So they'll have Buffalo, Detroit, and then I am telling you right now that you could put a little star on your calendar, and it is that next Tuesday, Winnipeg comes in, and Winnipeg right now is the best team in hockey. I don't even think it's debatable. I think they're 10-1. But if you watch some of their games, and I did watch because the other night I forgot I think they were playing Tampa. They are very good. They are quick. They kind of have a little bit of the Florida Panthers in them, where they're very quick on the forecheck. They're oppressive. They're pressing you in the defensive zone. And we know from the fall, or from the spring rather, that the Rangers struggle with that. That is going to be a concern. Nikolai, you are correct. They did sweep that series versus Atlanta. They won the series 4-0. I was at game 3, and they blew them out. It was 7-0. It was 7-0. Michael Coons is correct. That it was 7-0. And they won in blowout fashion. If my memory serves me right, so game 3 was a Tuesday. I Bleav they did game 4 the next night. There was not a day off for some reason. So it was Tuesday, Wednesday, and they blew them out in game 4. And I think it was game 4 or game 3. Ryan Callahan had 2 goals. And that was kind of like his coming out party because not everyone was a huge Cali fan yet. So
Nice.
we'll take some Instagram comments before our guest comes on. Mancini is playing at an NHL level, but this underlying numbers are concerning. Jones is the better option because of his ability to move the puck. The inability to do that sunk the New York Rangers in the playoffs. So I would agree, Joe, that if you're going to go Zach Jones versus Victor Mancini, Jones is by far the better puck-moving defenseman, and he gives you more an offensive feel to the game than Mancini. But I do worry about Zach Jones in the defensive end. And as I have said forever here, what worries me about Zach Jones above everything else is the fact that Zach Jones just seems very, very small to me. Like, I just don't see his body being an NHL defenseman. So, and Chris, going down memory lane, Avery fought Kovalchuk in game 3 or game 4. Yeah. So that was before the construction, the current layout of the Garden, and the 400 section went around the entire circle design of the Garden, where now it does not. It's really just now 420 to 413 behind the net. They shoot twice. And I sat in the top row of the net behind that they were shooting at. I want to say it was like 412, 411. Bought a single ticket going into the city. Now, you didn't have mobile tickets back then, like StubHub. I had to go to a Kinko's on 7th Ave after I bought it to physically print the ticket that I had just bought because I was waiting for prices to drop. And I went and made a ton of friends. I'll never see them again and probably don't even remember who they were. But in any event, it was a good time. So the Rangers will be tested big time next Tuesday.
Nice.
I would think in one of these next 2 games, Igor doesn't play. I would assume because they've been off 4 days and Quick already won in Detroit this year, I would probably think Igor plays tomorrow, Quick plays Saturday in Detroit, and then Igor plays Tuesday against Winnipeg.
Nice.
So, speaking of games, you know what I did last night before we get to our guest?
Played some games.
Last night, I did not. I was at a referee meeting for an outdoor the league that I ref, and I did not play any games last night. I did the night before, and we were terrible. But that's besides the point. Let's talk about happier things. Do you remember last year? Because there's a clip of it on Instagram on our page.
All right.
Where I went. What away game did I go to?
Oh,
what city?
Philadelphia.
Correct. So the Rangers again.
Yeah.
By I don't even want to say luck or whatever. Is they will be in Philadelphia for the second straight year, the Friday after Thanksgiving in a matinee game.
Wow.
Now, Jenny from the block and I took the kids last year.
Mhm.
If you remember, there is a video of this where let's just say we had some, I don't want to say issues, but we
Mhm.
had some, things of what you would not maybe want to expose your kids to and what you wouldn't want them to see and have them see with Philly fans.
Mhm.
When I saw that they were there again, when the schedule came out, I've been on the fence. Do I want to go? Do I not want to go? Etc. My son 2 days ago said to me,
Mhm.
"Are we going to that game in Philly?" And I said, "Well, do you want to go? I don't want to I don't want to spend the money on the tickets and drive down there. It's also the day after Thanksgiving. If you don't definitively want to go, we go to enough
Mhm.
games here. No, Dad, I want to go." So then yesterday, I
Mhm.
decided to ask my daughter if she wanted to go, and it was another emphatic yes. So I bought tickets last night.
Mhm.
The day after Thanksgiving, that Friday, again, we will be down in Philadelphia dealing with I was going to say those people, but that's probably not nice. So, and I can see we have a little argument going on in the chat before we get to our guest from TV, Michael Coons. Do you break up your lines on your teams if they don't work? And I'm sure that is in response to Chris, who has always been the one proponent I have ever seen here on MYPB of breaking up the Lafreniere, Trocheck, and Panarin line. So we will shift gears and we will bring in our guest. We will bring in Casey Hudson. And if you're saying to yourself, wow, she looks familiar, I don't know where I know her from, I'll give you a list of where it could be. It could be Bleav Network, Sports Grid TV, and she's also on SNY. How are you, Casey? Welcome to MYPB.
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
I am good. Well, thank you for joining us, and we appreciate it and look forward to some of your Ranger insight. You have a lot of people on our Instagram chat waiting for you, as well as firing questions on YouTube your way. But
No
why don't
pressure.
no pressure at all. Now we keep it fun here. Let's start here because it's perfect segue. It's a great starting point because people are arguing in our chat right now about them breaking up the lines. You had a really good clip on SNY that I loved about a week and a half ago, and it was you talked about how the third line at the time of Hedel and Kako and Cooley has been just as good as the top line, and that is 100% right. We probably could even argue that they've even been better than that top line at that point. So, are you surprised that they ended up breaking up the lines last week? Did it surprise you when you saw the Rangers do that?
Oh, absolutely. Because I was at the game, and of course, I was checking the lines as they started to do warm ups, and I was like, "What are we doing here, and why?" Um, I get that there's a number of players that they're trying to get sparked because they do have to kind of generate better depth scoring. That's how you're going to compete nowadays in this league because of where things are going, how much faster the game is getting. Dumping the puck is just kind of dying as well. So there's a number of things you have to change up. And that third line was really the most reliable line for them outside of Lafreniere and his ability to just create passing lanes and find the back of the net or set up his teammates. With that said, though, I mean, why would you break up that line? I don't think that playing the Islanders was a good indicator to say, okay, this is going to be just fine, because then the next morning they kept Cooley up there on the second line with Trocheck and Riley Smith. So something for them feels like they're trying to generate more depth scoring. I was very surprised, but I'm hoping and thinking it's going to go back, because if they play the Minnesota Wild tomorrow, the lines on Sunday aren't going to work.
Very, very true. And you never know with tomorrow when they play Buffalo who they're who's gonna be where. I mean, certainly I wouldn't bet my mortgage on it. A lot of people have thought, and I think this may be part of it, but it's not the main reason, that this was all done because Mika Zibanejad is clearly struggling, right? I mean, let's be real. Mika Zibanejad, aside from what you're seeing statistically, he just seems like he's lost. He just doesn't seem like the same player. What do you think is wrong with him? And is it fair to think that he's going to at some point snap out of it?
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, what's the best way I can put this? I think that sometimes certain forwards, especially a guy as talented as Zibanejad, they kind of get a little stuck in the need to be in a defensive role. And we've seen some of the pressure and the storms that the Rangers have had to weather. A number of forwards have kind of had to lean on more of their defensive reads and their defensive element to their play. With that said, I mean, one of the best things Zibanejad did in one of his best seasons was his ability to set up those passing lanes. His vision on the ice, his ability to make turnovers, his ability to set up his players, it was so sharp. the one season where he had 81 points and played 81 games, a lot of that came in the assist column. So I think some of the lost part for him is just like sometimes two-way players get stuck in more of a defensive read because there's moments where he just kind of looks a little spaced. But I mean, he almost has a point per game so far this season. So I'm not particularly hitting the panic button. I just think that while they're trying to reevaluate where their scoring is going to come from and what that's going to look like, some players like Zibanejad are going to get caught in the crossfire there.
So speaking of Zibanejad and assists, because that's a really good point, and people are talking about this on the chat, so I'll throw this in because it's a good follow-up question. You know, he started the year with Riley Smith. It is not fair at all to say would the Riley Smith move good or bad after 10 games, right? This is
Right.
something we will answer after game 82 and hopefully in June in the playoffs. So far, do you think what do you think of him being with Riley Smith?
I think that Riley Smith's a tough player because I was excited about the move. But Riley Smith, if you see some of the guys that he's played alongside of, he needs somebody that's going to pull the burst of speed out of him because he's really good at matching pace on those explosive plays and being the net front presence guy. I think where some of the confusion is coming up is that like you're trying to put too many net front presence guys on the same line and expect a dynamic there or expect it not to be so one-dimensional. So I think Zibanejad and Smith playing alongside of each other, it was just too one-dimensional. It takes a certain kind of player next to Riley Smith for that to become a two-dimensional or more depth opportunity because I am a big fan of Riley Smith. He's always on that back door. He's match pace with guys like William Karlsson over in Vegas, and I think it speaks to what he's capable of, but I don't think that the dynamic was there for him and Zibanejad. I also think it might be tough to kind of see Riley Smith on that second line. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a change-up coming there. Not that he's not doing well. He's good with creating turnovers. He's somebody who can be more of a defensive forward if need be. But the second line role might change up for him in that aspect. You got Trocheck, explosive, net front, can do all these different things. And you're trying to pair him with players that have the similarity. That's why I really don't like Cooley with Trocheck because I think that that's kind of an element that Cooley brought to that third line to help with the depth scoring.
I would agree with you on that. I don't like the two of them together at all.
Mhm.
Another player, kind of two players in the same discussion. People were talking on the chat. Zach Jones and Victor Mancini. Do you think either defenseman is going to get a leg up on the other and win that sixth spot definitively, or are we going to just see mix and match, depend on the opponent, etc.?
I would prefer mix and match because I think these two guys bring a different element. You're seeing more of that offensive defenseman out of Zach Jones, and I feel like the Rangers gravitate towards that. But again, there's just some things that have to change. Like, who's your shutdown defensive pairing? It can't be Trouba and Miller. We already know how many pucks get past those two, and I know a lot of Rangers fans get very upset when the pairing comes back together. But I look at the size between Scheider and Mancini, and you're talking about two guys that are 6'3", 6'4", 220 plus pounds. Like, you can have that shutdown opportunity. I think Scheider is very smart when it comes to not trying to overcompensate on physical plays. So he's not making mistakes back there. You're kind of getting that proper stay-at-home defenseman, where Mancini can do both. He can try to play into the offensive play, or he can hold things down and use his size. And I feel like size is going to come into play majorly going against certain teams coming up here. So you have a balanced attack between Jones and Mancini, but I like Mancini just like a smidge more. I like the size. I like the opportunity to get guys off the puck. And I think you can do that with that bottom pairing.
Yeah, my major issue with Zach Jones has always been for 3 years his size. That has always been my worry, right? Especially
Yeah.
playing in an NHL defenseman with the type of body that he has. He's great on the power play, moving the puck. I get it. You know, he brings his advantages there, but on the flip side, I worry about that. Speaking defensively, keeping it defensively for a minute. Obviously, the summer of Jacob Trouba and everything that went on and dealt with. What would you say? How do you think it's been for Jacob Trouba 10 games into the season?
It's I almost want to say it's kind of the same old with Jacob Trouba, but it's just hard because he does bring that intimidation factor and that energy to the ice. Yet I'm not seeing much of a contribution in terms of like, the captaincy and him contributing to points on the board and stuff. He's come up with the physical plays, but you're seeing younger guys that can kind of help in that sense as well. So I think that we're just kind of seeing Trouba still do and be who he was last year, which is nerve wracking because there was some shakeup in terms of like whether he's going to continue to fit this system and this organization moving forward. So I thought he'd probably come in with a little bit more energy and a little bit more discipline. And I just personally haven't seen it.
Okay. Yeah, I would I would agree with you. I don't know that there's anything we've seen in these 10 games. It's not to say that it's been terrible either. It's just nothing that,
Exactly.
right? Nothing. I think you're right. It's kind of status quo in who he is. Let me ask you a question. Let's go off the ice with some issues right now. The biggest question by far, if you celebrate Christmas, if you celebrate Hanukkah, if it's your birthday, what you want this year is for Igor to be resigned, right? That's what every Ranger fan wants. And the Rangers and Chris Drury, especially Chris Drury in particular, always, we've had Dan Rosen from NHL on with us all the time, says it as well. He keeps things tight to his chest. He doesn't give out a lot of information. If you were a crystal ball and we said you are Kasey the crystal ball, what next year? Where is Igor? Is Igor a Ranger? And if he is, talk to me about the contract he's going to get to keep being a Ranger.
The holiday pressure. I think Igor remains a Ranger. I don't particularly see him going anywhere. I know that the illumination of this conversation has been the money and the deserving of the money because yes, he's had to stand on his head a lot. I was slightly disappointed in some of the post-game pressers on Sunday when they were asked about the defensive performance in front of Shesterkin, and they're like, "Yeah, we did better." They didn't do better. The Islanders beat themselves in a number of ways. The shots were there. They outshot the Rangers in the first two periods. So they have to play better in front of Shesterkin because you don't want that fatigue to kick in. With that being said, looking at the age of Shesterkin, looking at, the peak of goalies and then what happens when they get paid, I think it's a little bit of a high price. I think they do need to negotiate that down just a smidge because you're going to have to start paying for pieces in front of Shesterkin so that he doesn't have to work such a large load between the pipes. And that's going to be the best thing for this team, this organization, playoffs, and hopefully a Stanley Cup. But I don't think he's going to go anywhere. I think they're going to figure out a way to make it happen. There's some pieces that can kind of open up money at the end of this season. So maybe if they can find a way to kind of have his patient structure in there, then I think it'll be fine. But I'd bring that down almost about $2 million, that's for sure. And not to compare because Shesterkin is not Swayman, but Swayman's not performing very well, and he basically got the money he was asking for. So you're in that 30-ish range. You're looking at weathering a lot of pressure, a lot of pucks at you, a lot of high danger opportunities. The Rangers are one of the top teams for weathering high danger opportunities, and that's just so much to put on a goalie season in and season out. So hopefully it's a good holiday. Hopefully they're able to re-sign him. I don't think he's going anywhere, but I think the price does have to come down a smidge so that they can pay for key pieces in front of Shesterkin.
Well, if it's a good holiday, we will call you Santa Casey instead of Santa Claus. I would agree with you. I think he stays for a couple of reasons. I think, one, you're playing in New York. You're playing in an Original Six franchise, right? His best friend is Sorokin on the Islanders. You have as good of a chance to win here as anywhere else. And I do want to believe that the Rangers realize you have a position player in the most important position in the prime of his career. Who's the best in the league. You cannot let him go. And you're right that there are ways at the end that they can open up the room. So I am not as overly concerned. I'm going to take some Instagram questions because we got people firing them at you here. Do you nothing crazy here? I'll take I'll keep on the Igor one. Do you think Igor at what he wants? Does he want to? Actually, let me see if this makes any sense. We'll switch gears. I'm not sure that I understand the question. Should the Rangers have tried for Kane one more time in the offseason to put him with Mika and Kreider?
No. We've seen Kane get thrown onto these all-star lines and it not particularly be it. Kane's the kind of guy that can make plays happen, which means he needs to elevate some of those smaller role positions around him. We've seen when I know everyone gets stuck on sort of like the all-star line when he played for the Blackhawks, but that's just not where the game is going anymore. Like Kane has to be that guy that helps with zone entry, and he's got to be able to pull people with him, and that's not particularly Zibanejad's role either. So I wouldn't have pushed for Kane to stay whatsoever. I think that they're fine. I think they're heading in a good direction. There's just a few little things that need to be tweaked.
Okay. Let me ask you another, I guess it's on the ice question, but it's a role in the lineup. So Matt Rempe comes in the league. I have never been a fan, whether it was these unnecessary 5-minute majors back in February. I've never understood the hype. He's a fourth liner to me. After the Washington game 2 in April, I put out a clip and I said, enough. You can't dress him in Washington. Right? Mm-hmm. I took more hate that day than any day in my life for any reason. I mean, you would think I did something terrible, right? But I remain steadfast that I don't hate the guy, but I don't understand the hype. Last week, I put out a follow-up clip, and again, everyone goes crazy at me, although I do feel like a lot of people are starting to see my side. Mm-hmm. Where does Matt Rempe fit in this organization, both short-term this year, with this roster, and then as long-term as well? What do you see Matt Rempe as?
Rangers fans, please be kind. He does not fit short term, but that's also because we have done him a disservice in terms of not trying to continue to develop what a fourth line center needs to be able to do. Fourth line center is more defensive. They can create turnovers. They can help out in a lot of ways other than dropping the gloves. I think we got excited about his size. I think we got excited about the fact that he was fearless in dropping the gloves and now he was going to take on the enforcers of other teams. But while the excitement of bringing back the enforcer is there and fans want to see it, you have to be strategic about it. So Matt Rempe being 6'8" and being willing to drop the gloves, it doesn't contribute to the game. Why I emphasize the disservice of it, though, is that look at his WHL numbers, actually. The kid bounced back from injury and almost had a point per game and with the Thunderbirds. I mean, in 47 games, he had 31 points. He has the ability to create turnovers, but they're not trying to emphasize that skill set out of him. A guy that's 6'8" should be creating a lot more disruption other than being okay with going against Tom Wilson and Revo and all this other stuff. So I think long term, if you properly develop a 6'8" guy that can show you that he can create turnovers and help out in the assist column, sure. But right now, he needs to stay and develop down in the AHL. There's no point in bringing him back up, and teams are not scared of him. It's just an element of entertainment at this point. So if you're going to put this team in the best position possible to compete, I know that the size helps, but he needs to develop if he's actually going to help this roster.
Well, all the comments, just so you know, on Instagram and YouTube to what you said is in agreement with you. So I could see Rempe came in by need. He can't skate. He belongs in the AHL. Another one on Instagram, short term, he should be in the minors. So yes, I would think people here are in agreement with you. Yeah, I don't get it. I never have. And as time goes on with some of the people that stand behind this guy, I just I don't get it. I don't know if
Oh my gosh. No, and then playoffs when they were like, bring in Rempe. And I'm like, what is he going to do against a team that brings so much speed into zone entry? And like sometimes watching him skate backwards, it hurts. But these are things that can be fixed given the time. So what's one of the other most frustrating things as a fan to watch is when a guy looks like he can't skate. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Rempe. I've seen good things out of him, but you can't be that young and just focus on fighting for 2 minutes every once in a while and not elevate or, curtail any other element of your game. So he's got to stay down and he's got to work on all of that.
And I will pull up GS3099's comment on Instagram, which is good point. He's no longer a threat and more entertainment. She is absolutely correct. So you are correct on that. All right. Before we let you go, let's have just a little on the fly fun with Kasey the Crystal Ball here. That's what we're going to name it. Kasey's Crystal Ball.
So far, the puck is the ball.
There we go. I like it. You know what? We'll get the people here at Undefeated Media to make some graphic next time you're on with us. We can certainly do that. But
thank you.
Carolina off to a really good start in the Metro. Washington off to a good start in the Metro. At the end of the season, in your crystal ball, Kasey, do the Rangers finish atop the Metro?
Oof. I want to say yes because Shesterkin. Not because I don't have faith in the organization, but the Lions have to find the depth scoring. It can't be Lafreniere and then trying to figure out what's going on with Cooley. Like, put him back where he is, help him continue to bring confidence back for Kakko, just reestablish some of those lines, and they can probably pick up a guy for $775 at the trade deadline that can help out. But my concern is going to be the Capitals, because one of the areas that they cleaned up and brought so much strength to is the fact that they could defend. They had good goaltending as well, but they couldn't score for the life of them. So now they're putting up points, and it's overwhelming to see the chances that they're generating, and just to see how close things were when they were just a defensive team and just putting pucks, keeping pucks out of the net. That's going to make for an interesting playoff down the stretch. But I trust Shesterkin more for one. I think that they can get these lines going for two. So I'm going to stick with the Rangers topping the Metro. But if anybody's going to make it tough, it's going to be the Capitals.
Okay, last question, and we'll keep it on the Igor theme. Obviously, for them to win the Metro, which is what you're predicting and what I think as well in the end, because I think they will, there has to be more than Igor, and that is Quick. And Quick last year, obviously, you couldn't ask for anything more than you got. Do you think it's fair to assume that between now and the end of April, we get the same sort of Jonathan Quick performances we got last year?
Yes, I think so. I think what the Rangers did very well is they just kind of managed him in the roles in which he was going to come in, what games he was going to come in. He's feeling really good. And those are the most important things: health, feeling good, and workload management. And I think they can even help incorporate him a little bit more to make sure that Shesterkin's focused on playoffs. So I think that they'll be fine in that aspect for sure.
Okay, and we will take some real quick Instagram comments. I agree with her on Rempe. He's underrated skill, but his raw skills need to be honed. Tommy's comment about what you just said, the Capitals are an issue. She's absolutely right. They made a lot of the right moves. So, yes, people are in certain agreement with you.
I appreciate it.
Well, you see that as long as they don't go at you, they can go at me, right? But we try to keep the guest happy here. So, and they all like you, and I can see why. So,
I can take the heat. It's fine.
Okay.
It's New York, so heat's gonna happen. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Well, we have someone asking. So the person that I was going to bring the Igor question for you rephrased it now that I understand. I'll ask you one more before you go. Do you think giving Igor what he wants would stranglehold the team like a Lundqvist era contract, or is there a way that you can give him what he wants without sacrificing the future cap?
That's where I feel like the adjustment's going to have to come in. Igor's going to have to come down $1.5 million to $2 million because the focus has to be getting in key pieces to play better in front of him. He's deserving of it in so many ways because he stands on his head, but also, like I mentioned beforehand, he's one of the top goaltenders to weather a number of high danger opportunities. So he's sitting in a high stress position consistently. Then you look at other goalies across the league and you see where they've become more solvable, like, I hate to say this, there's people that think that Vasilevsky can't defend his 5-hole whatsoever, and a lot of teams started kind of overworking that, whereas, like, you can't point out too many weaknesses with Shesterkin. So the price, fair, but in order to reduce that high stress, in order to get people playing better in front of you, you're going to have to invest in the guys in front of you, and that doesn't always mean bringing in a high-ticket player because some of those, polished diamonds in the rough, those are going to be your better players to protect your goalie and be better for the stretch of the season and the postseason. So I think he needs to come down just a bit because I think that there's going to be some deadline moves coming up in March that can better assist this team. If they're a formidable team with a bottom 6 guys that can play two-way hockey strong and let your top 6 guys really open up and bring the scoring, or have your first and third line be your scorers because I need that third line to go back, and have your second line and your fourth line be your two-way line, that can work. That's basically what the Panthers have. The Panthers have 2 strong two-way lines with size and speed on it. So the Rangers are not far off from being one of the most competitive teams, but that money is going to put them in a hole if they come out and do that. And as an organization, I wouldn't be that motivated after seeing, not comparing the two, but after seeing Swayman decline. He's under 900 right now. And the whole battle leading into the season was paying the man what he deserves.
Yeah, that's a great point with everything that happened with Swayman. One more. I know I keep saying last question. I promise you last one. This is a good one.
No rush.
Someone just wrote in for you on Instagram. Do you think Laviolette should put Jones on power play too? Trouba and Miller seem to struggle there, and Jones ran the power play in Hartford for years.
I could totally see Jones on the power play. I can see that that's where he is effective. Because again, some of the theme with the defensemen on this team is just everybody's so offensive, defensively focused, where Jones can play quarterback on the power play. I could see that all day. Trouba, like you asked me earlier, I don't see another step in his play. I don't particularly see decline, but there wasn't that much that was more helpful than hurtful last season in terms of Trouba's play. Miller, he seems like more of a second half of the season kind of guy that gets going at that point. But regardless, like, you could be more lethal on the power play. You can jump up in the rankings and go from, I think the Rangers are sitting at 7th right now, back into that top 5 positioning. And I think Jones can be a contributor with that. Build his confidence on the power play now and see what he brings in the second half of the season. And I think it'll only get better.
Well, let's hope it does get better. Thank you for joining us. That is, again, Casey Hudson, Bleav Network, Sports Grid TV, SNY. You're all over the place. Come back and see us again. We'll do another Casey Crystal Ball segment.
Yes, just say when. I'm happy to come back.
All right, thank you. That is the great Casey Hudson joining us. Great Ranger insight there. And thank you guys for sending in all the questions as well. She was on top of her stuff, which I would expect, and certainly delivered. So
Absolutely.
Good
Great
stuff. I didn't even know you were still here.
Well, wait, you were so
sitting over there.
You guys were so in depth.
Sitting over there.
Questions, a lot of questions.
I will post her. We'll put up her Instagram because people are asking what her Instagram handle is to follow her with her takes. Well, I'll put it up later today, or you can even DM us and I'll give it to you.
Mm-hmm.
So shifting gears, Well, tomorrow again, Rangers home against Buffalo. I will be there tomorrow. In Detroit again on Saturday, and then home against a really good Winnipeg team on Tuesday. Going to the NFL, we had another winning week.
Yeah,
but that is now 3 in a row. So we've made you. We've
win
made
streak.
you. Yeah, we've made you some money, and people are upset you didn't even yell Remsanity, which I think that's good. Michael, I don't know where I'm sitting. We'll see. We'll have to stay tuned on that one. So the record on the year now: 5 winning weeks, 3 losing weeks, 1 draw. Last week we were stupid, and the one we got wrong, I'm really annoyed, was the Giants +3 at home versus the Commanders. That did not hit. The Cowboys +2.5 in Atlanta didn't hit, but then we hit the other 3, finishing with a winning week. We had the Jaguars +7.5 at the Eagles. We had the Cardinals -1 at home with the Bears. I told you that game wasn't even going to be close, and it was -1, and I Bleav it was a 20-point game. It wasn't even close. And Tampa, I said, Kansas City is not blowing anyone out these days. So Tampa +8.5 on Monday Night Football worked. So moving on to week 10, we're trying to go for our 4th winning week in a row. I like the Panthers +5.5 at home versus the Giants. The Giants should never be on the road giving 5.5 points. I don't care who you're playing. I'm taking the Panthers +5.5 at home.
Wow.
The Bills -4 at the Colts. The Bills are far and away the better team. They won the other day on a 61-yard field goal. They are riding a kind of now an emotional wave from that. The Colts stink. I don't even understand why they were on Sunday Night Football last week. Give me the Bills -4 at the Colts. Tampa +5 at home versus the 49ers. The 49ers have not been good this year. I don't understand the hype that they're getting on with Vegas every week still. They haven't been that good. Tampa has been better than expected. The 49ers got to fly across the country, and the home team is getting 5 points. Give me Tampa +5 at home versus the 49ers. I like this is a tough one. I like the Cardinals -1 at home versus the Jets. The Cardinals are a better team. Again, the Jets have to go cross country. The Jets have not been consistent. -1 is virtually a pick 'em. Give me the Cardinals -1. I'm sticking to the same rubric and plan that worked last week. Broncos +8 in Kansas City. Kansas City is not blowing people out. The Broncos cannot be any worse than they were last week in Baltimore. They need to respond a little bit. And Mahomes, I'm not sure what's going on with the ankle. Give me the Broncos +8 in Kansas City. So to recap the Week 10 MYPB picks, give me the Panthers Panthers +5.5 at home versus the Giants. The Bills -4 at the Colts. Tampa +5 at home versus the 49ers. The Cardinals -1 at home versus the Jets. And the Broncos on the road in Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City +8 versus the Chiefs.
The Giants are bad. We all can agree on that. But you think they're a Panther bad?
They're Panther bad. Panther. I'm saying Panther on purpose now. And Michael is saying that the Giant game is in Europe, and that is correct this weekend. I Bleav it is in Germany, if I'm not mistaken.
You can catch it nice and early at like 9 a.m.
Yes, it is in Germany.
Get the loss out of the way.
Now, Michael may want to know this, that I know someone who had asked me earlier in that he was interested in going to the game. And I think what happened is that the Giants are so bad that my friend just didn't even want to go. And I had said Jenny from the block loved Germany when she went there in college. I said, I'll send Jenny from the block and the whole team, and they're not going.
Snooze, you lose.
You know what? You snooze, you lose.
Snooze, you lose.
Anything from you?
No. This one goes out to who said it? Chris. Here you go, Chris. Remsanity.
There we go.
You need to get one. You need to get one.
Hopefully, it'll get to a point where that just goes away. Not against you, just having to hear the term or anything.
You don't like it when I say Remsanity?
Yeah. So
Remsanity.
Well, that is it. We thank our sponsors as always. We thank the Bamboozle Project. Check out the bamboozleproject.com. Use promo code MYPB. We thank DraftKings as well. I see that you guys have blown up the YouTube chat. I apologize. I really wasn't following it as much as I normally do. I will go back and read it and see what's going on. I promise it is on my homework assignment list for next week. Again, the Rangers home tomorrow night versus Buffalo, in Detroit on Saturday, home versus Winnipeg. We will be back on next Wednesday. We will see you then. Have a great week.